Well, it is no secret that couples fight. One of the most frequent topics for those battles is money, and fights over where the money is going are one of the main causes for divorce. So how do you avoid the traps of this very sensitive issue? Financial planner Karen Lee joining us this morning to talk about love and money.
Yeah.
You have some great tips, I know. And in fact, your book, It's Just Money,
Yes.
is pretty much full of all those great
That's
tips.
right.
But let me start with, why do couples fight? I mean, there's so much to fight about. Why do they tend to focus on the finances?
Well, it's one of the big ones. My personal theory is that we all have a relationship with money. And this relationship is rooted in the way we were raised, as well as our life experience. Now, when you take marriage, often, not always, but often opposites attract. I know that happened in my marriage. My father was an immigrant, and so I'm a first-generation American, whereas my husband comes from centuries of Americans. And when we got married at 25, 26, we certainly didn't talk about our different views about money. So I think when you put all that together, it can really become a pressure cooker.
So what happens when a couple is arguing over money and they can't agree on anything about money?
Right.
What do you tell them?
Well, I say let's start with communication. So first of all, let's face it, we don't talk about money in this country. It's taboo. Typically in a marriage, we let one person handle it because they like it more, they're better at it, and the other person's out of the loop. So I recommend for couples that don't have regular talks about money, let's start with communication. Where are we right now? What's our overall picture? How much debt? You know how many people do not know what their debt load is right now? How much do you have in savings? What works, what doesn't work? And let's start scheduling some regular times to talk about our financial.
Communication is key.
Key.
What about recommendations for those who have different ideas? I mean, some people are savers, you know, and maybe your husband or your wife is a spender and wants to enjoy it while they have it. What do you recommend?
It's something that works in lots of things in marriage, which is compromise. First of all, when there's a saver...
Compromise in marriage?
We know there are usually the saver versus the spender. What we need to recognize is that we try to make the saver always right and the spender always wrong. It doesn't always work well that way. Some savers, and I tell you about this personally, are literally living in fear of never having enough. And so they try to control so heavily the spending that the person in charge of the family budget doesn't have any leniency. So both people need to look at where they come from and try to move to a more central position.
Yeah, that goes back to that fear of running out of money and your upbringing. So if compromise is out of the question, what do they do?
Obviously now we're talking counseling, but not necessarily.
I knew we were going there.
My 3 C's, not always therapy. If your problem is debt and unable to get past a debt situation, consider debt counseling, debt consolidation. If you're living with the one person that has that fear of never having enough, financial planning can be a wonderful solution. Financial planning helps you assess if where we are right now is enough, what we're doing, and maybe we can loosen up a little bit on the spending.
So given this is a big problem in a lot of marriages, I mean, what if you're planning on getting married, or you have a son or a daughter planning on getting married, do you think they should go and talk to somebody beforehand?
Well, I first of all think they need to sit down with each other and practice full disclosure. I hear of relationships that break up during the engagement phase because they did not know how much debt the other person had. So,
and then you take that on.
So come clean. How much debt am I bringing into the marriage? How do I feel about savings and debt? And you know the best thing couples can do to ensure a better marriage? Have goals and dreams for the future that they're planning for, and the saving aligns with those dreams.
You got to save and enjoy. We just have to find that right
balance.
All right, it's just money, but it causes so many problems.
It does.
Karen Lee, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.